Got it.
Welcome to Binary Jazz. It's a podcast about some folks who talk about things. Do I amuse you? I don't know. I'm
Are
missing.
you you're just not having it today, are you? You're just
I was thinking about the whole. I in the past when we've taken a break, it's like, well, we're back, and stuff happened, and this time it's like, yeah, fuck it. We're here, we're
Honestly, life.
recording. Like, what else can you expect of us?
What else
well,
can you? Great things. You can expect
Yeah,
great things
that's
of
true.
us.
Yes. Yeah, no, we're recording a thing, and here we are doing so. I am Chris, Jazz Sequence on the internet, also Jazz Sequence on Mastodon, because in the interim, Twitter exploded. And I'm joined as always by my friends Binary Gary, who's Gary in real life, and Allison Plus, who's Allison in real life, neither of whom I believe are on Mastodon. Actually, Allison is,
I'm like,
sort of.
it's such a weak presence. Mostly because I
yeah,
made it a private
Oh,
account.
Gary, you're on
So
too. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't even, are we even friends, Gary? I don't even think we're
I don't. I'm not sure how to do that. So
How does social networks even work?
if you initiate that, I got a request. The only network I'm on, and it's mandatory for me, is LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they won't pay me.
They
Turns out I
won't
like
pay.
money.
They won't pay
Oh,
you. Not
LinkedIn won't.
oh
I thought
because
you meant your
LinkedIn
other
won't.
job. I was like,
Yeah,
Oh
right.
no, the other job pays me just fine.
yeah.
But LinkedIn won't pay me for my videos, which makes sense since it's LinkedIn Learning. However, that requires me to keep a profile there.
It
So I
does.
check on it once a month. And some lady who is the director of an assisted living facility wants to connect with me. And I'm like, I don't know this person, but I wonder if I should. So I think I'm just about to like start growing my network in weird ways.
I mean,
You know,
maybe. I got rid of my LinkedIn and
good choice.
well, it for me wasn't actually serving a purpose. I think for some people they really like know how to work. I'm just like, this isn't my deal because I'm not like, basically my thing is with social networks is like, if I don't invite you over to my house, you're not on my, like, I try not to. Twitter is kind of the exception to that because I'm like, what's your deal? You're kind of fun.
Yeah,
Twitter's
um
like a weird mosh pit.
but
my
LinkedIn, I was being so picky because I was just like, unless I actually know you, I'm not making a connection with you.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I agree, and I do that, and I will add people that I've met at WordCamps and stuff, or
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will add people if I get invites from people I either have worked with or work for places that I recognize. Like if somebody from 10 Up wanted to connect,
Yeah.
I'd be like, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty picky. I don't like approve all of the recruiters that want to connect with me. But on the flip side, like to Gary's point, maybe I should because
I'm just gonna open the floodgates. Who
I
cares?
do I have and do look at LinkedIn for like job stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So
I,
it's
I
it's
found
hard.
that was I found that was more effective looking at LinkedIn for like job openings than most other things.
Really?
Yeah. I was talking to my brother about this and he was saying similar. And like he's the type that's like, I don't know, he's an extrovert. So like it's just like a completely different experience for him.
I have a
Yeah,
colleague I worked with who has like he and I've had a very weird parallel path. Like we haven't been at the exact same companies, but we've had overlap at the same companies and we've worked together often enough. We have a similar network of people that we know. He has like 10 times more people on LinkedIn that he's connected with. I'm like, who the hell are all these people? I don't know them. He doesn't
hmm
know them. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
So
and like my brother's way of thinking is just like, oh, but any small connection, like who knows where that will lead me in the future. And like he's just about
I'm
like
not.
pulling that thread and then just like seeing where, and I'm just
Yeah.
very like, this is my little hobbit hole and this
See,
is
I
where I live.
I used
Yeah.
to do that, and where that thread leads is trash. That is where it leads. Utter trash. No worthwhile interconnectedness. Like, no, like they want to get to 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon, and you are helping them in their path to get six
Oh,
degrees to Kevin Bacon. You're just one little hop, on their path to whatever. But
I
like it doesn't. It provides you no value generally from what I've seen.
Yeah.
I made an effort on LinkedIn once this year when my first course came out. I'm like, I'm going to engage in this site and post
Mm.
content. So for 2 weeks in a row, I posted articles and then said, not articles, like I wrote something, like a paragraph. It wasn't even that much effort.
Yeah.
But I decided after that it was too much. It was the payback wasn't there. 2 paragraphs, like no.
Yeah,
No.
I
If
don't
you want to know what I think about some obscure programming stuff, just ask.
I don't post anything on LinkedIn, but I will periodically go back and like update like projects I've worked on or like my job description or whatever, just to make sure that it's that part of it is accurate, because that's all I really care about it for is
Yeah.
like that's basically a resume and that's all it needs to be. I don't need to
So
engage in the community or anything.
can I interrupt and just hijack this intro and
Sure.
say, since it has been a while, how are you both doing?
I feel like it's loaded. I
I'm
mean, the
awake.
question is not loaded. The answer feels loaded.
I'm awake and I'm not crying. I saw that as an answer to being like, I guess there's like it's kind of a turn of phrase in Norway or something. And I was like, yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna use that. I was just like, I'm awake, I'm not crying. I'm like, here we go, day. Let's
Those
do
Norwegians have really got it figured out in some way.
I was like, those are the things you need to know about me right now.
Except
It's
for like
fair.
the pickled fish. I'm not about that. Not about
I'm not
that.
about the fish part of it, but I love
Yeah,
pickled things. So
I do too, but I draw a line at fish. I'm not sure what's before that line. What the last pickled thing is I eat before I say no to
before
fish, but
fish.
yeah.
But gelled fish, probably.
Mm.
Nope. Don't want that. Merry Christmas. Oh, thanks. It's like a fruitcake.
I've told you all my gefilte fish story, right?
That doesn't ring a
I
bell. But
I was gonna say yes in hopes that unless you have more than one story.
No, I just have the one. It was one. It was, so my one of my first real jobs was working as a bagger at a grocery store. It was actually a
I
grocery
do know
chain.
that.
It was a grocery chain that my dad was human resources manager for, and so he helped set things up. And so as a bagger, obviously you do all the cleanups. And I there was a call for a cleanup. So the store that we were at had a fair Jewish demographic that would shop there. So we carried uh, kosher foods, and there was a cleanup in the kosher section, which is, by the way, at the time right across from the fish department, uh, seafood department, and what it turned out the cleanup was a jar of gefilte fish. And if
Mm.
you're unfamiliar with gefilte fish, it is basically hamburgerized fish chunks, like globs of like ground fish meat in a jar filled with some sort of gelatinous goo.
I think that's
So
still part of the fish.
so so if you can imagine being across from the fish department and cleaning up glass and fish scented goo and chunks of like fish burger, uh it was not particularly pleasant.
Probably all you could smell for the rest of the day too.
It was, yeah, it was the I maintain that is the worst thing to clean up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm not going to challenge you on that. I
Because
don't want to
honestly, like
experience it.
honestly, somebody pukes in the store. You throw some like cat litter or which we had on
Sawdust.
hand, or sawdust on it, and then you sweep it up, and then it's gone. But like the gefilte fish, like there's goo, there's glass. You need to get in there. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
it's not just something you can like dump a whole bunch of stuff on and then sweep it up and you're done. Like you need to
Ugh.
like I needed to collect the goo first.
I apologize to anyone who eats while listening to Binary Jazz.
I actually have some Cheez-Its today, so
We've ruined snack time.
I'm assured that gefilte fish actually tastes good in other contexts, like when it is, prepared, which I have no opinion on because I've
No, I
never.
am. I've heard that too, though. It's just in the right setting, people say nice things.
But it is the worst thing to clean up.
Ugh.
you're saying the floor preparation is not how
Yeah,
you would go
no.
about it in the future.
Yeah, I would
Oh.
not break a jar of gefilte fish on the ground
Broken
before
glass.
prior to eating.
Is there a food you would throw on the floor before eating?
Spaghetti.
Maybe a cookie.
Hmm. The reason I ask is, of course, as you know, this household is into NASCAR racing, and there is a driver who, if he wins, he's a watermelon farmer, so throws a watermelon off the top of his car, and watermelon breaks into pieces that generally you can pick up a chunk and just eat it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's fair.
if he won this year, the whole thing, we had a watermelon ready to throw in the driveway, but he didn't, so we just ate it the normal way.
Just ate it normal.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's that.
Well, this is a show where typically we have a topic. We might not have a topic today. I don't know, and if we don't, that's fine too. But typically we have a topic that Allison brings to Gary and I, who need to something we haven't discussed prior, and probably something of which we know nothing about, and then Gary and I try to figure out what it means or make some shit up that sounds plausible, yeah, that's how this show works.
Well, I will preface this by saying what I normally say, which you might know this.
Mm.
That never bodes well for us, actually. Would you say that?
No, I don't. I don't know. I've sat with this topic for too long to question whether or not this is a pocket of knowledge that anybody has. I can always find reason in my mind for reasons you would know it, but if those reasons are true, will remain to be seen.
Mm.
So the topic today is Fata Morgana.
What?
Fata Morgana. It's 2 words.
Fata.
It was from like episode 4 of Star Wars, right? Or 3 of Star Wars?
Yes, that's the soundtrack.
Maybe.
Fata.
Uh-huh.
And then Morgana, Morgana.
I do feel like that is one of the songs from the episode 3 soundtrack.
Yeah. Max Rebo, is that the musician?
I don't know. But I think I believe Fata is Fate.
In what world? In what language? In
Latin? Latin derivative?
That's safe. I like it.
And
then the second word is, Chris, you're in a roll. I'm just gonna let you hold this one.
I mean, Morgana is a witch. It means witch's fate.
I think it has something to do with seasoning or flavor profile. So like when someone's like, man, that was killer.
Pure Fata Morgana.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
It's like tabula rasa.
Oh, I think you need to say it with an Italian accent, Chris.
Fata Morgana.
Yep, that's how I heard it in my head.
I'm always here for my Italian accent.
I do hear you whenever I see signs that are vaguely Italian. I hear you saying it, and with the hand motion.
You can't speak Italian without the hand motion.
I can't speak Italian.
Well, it's not. You need the. Mi scusi.
I do think that you're onto something with the fate portion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you're onto with it.
I don't know what I'm onto either. Definitely something.
Yeah.
I feel like okay. So Allison would not bring it to us if it was not like a concept. If it was just like
just words strung together.
If it was just words strung together, like it was just like so it has to there has to be something beneath the words that it refers to, some sort of conceptual idea based on past topics.
I feel like next time I should string together clues within tweets or something, and then you'll be like, well, based on the article she's been posting, it has to be something on like whales or like.
I can like pivot my camera to like a big like cork board with like string and pins and stuff with a bunch of Allison tweets on it.
Yeah, that's
and a rubber duck in the corner just for good measure.
I mean, you're correct. It's a cohesive thing.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's a cohesive thing that has a Wikipedia entry.
Sure. Right. Yeah, that's a requirement. And the where I got witch from was like Morrigan is sort of a classically like Celtic European kind of, I don't know if deity is the right word for it, but there's definitely stories of
Mm.
in relation to um magic and the fae and things of that nature. So I brought it into witch, which also isn't necessarily Latin. Um,
But you're saying killer witch. Is that where you're going with this?
no.
That's an
um,
oversimplification of
yeah.
your bullshit.
I mean, you're not wrong. You mean
I
you're not also not specific.
right. Yeah, I don't know if the Morgan connection is a thing that links here, but that's where I'm linking it in my head. Um, but I don't
I'm
I yeah,
impressed.
yeah mythology, yo. um
Mythology, yo.
That's our Splinter podcast.
yeah, mythology, yo. Um yeah, I don't have a cohesive thought further than that.
Ooh, I have a question that has nothing to do with this.
Sure.
On brand. Have you seen the Dungeons and Dragons trailer? Because I just saw it last night. I'm sure it's been out.
I saw the first trailer a couple months ago when they first announced the thing, and then I've seen the recent trailer. Um,
Thoughts, concerns?
um, well, the first thing, so when the first trailer came out, all of the D&D nerds were like, okay, so the thing that everyone's going to yell at the producer of the movie, the company that's making the movie about is going to be about how a druid can't wild shape into an owlbear.
I love that. Okay.
Or the flip side of that, now all the dungeon masters who are running D&D are going to need to allow their druids to wild shape into an owlbear.
Hmm.
I don't care about that because owl bears are fucking cool and they probably wouldn't be in the movie otherwise.
So,
Um,
but this is from the preview, right?
yeah.
There's no like creative editing happening in this preview that when the actual story unfolds, that's not actually what happens.
No, it shows in the trailer a character turning into an owl bear. The implication is that she is a druid and that it is that's her wild shape ability. I don't care about that specifically, and I don't even necessarily care about like rules accuracy for the movie. I think from what I have seen in the trailers, they do a pretty good job. Like the thing that you think about, the thing that I think about that makes Dungeons and Dragons unique is not the story, it's the stuff inside. It's the creatures that are unique to that world. Because Dungeons and Dragons pulls a lot of like random shit from all over the place.
Yeah.
And it would be boring to pull like a sphinx or a manticore or something that exists in mythology outside of Dungeons and Dragons into a Dungeons and Dragons movie and call it Dungeons and Dragons. I think that the original Dungeons and Dragons movie in the 90s um, was disappointing because it didn't have things that were unique to the brand. It just had, hey, here's an fantasy adventure story that happens to have a dungeon in it somewhere. And like, like the dungeon wasn't really that cool. It was like here's a gauntlet of traps that people will have to go through. Okay, fine, whatever. Um, I think that from what I can see in the trailer, there are quite a bit of creatures, monsters that are specific to the Dungeons and Dragons sort of multiverse that are included. Whether it's contextually appropriate or not, I don't care because it's cool to see like a displacer beast or a mimic or whatever, these things that you wouldn't see in other types of fiction because they're specific to Dungeons and Dragons in a movie. Like that's what the movie is about. I don't even care about the plot. Like if the plot is good, great. But like if you can get sequences, because Dungeons and Dragons at the end of the day is a combat simulator. So if you can get the things into the movie that and make it an action movie and get those things that are appropriate to Dungeons and Dragons that make Dungeons and Dragons distinct and unique, then I think that that's a success. And I'm definitely down for watching it. And now like the accuracy to the internal mythology with regards to like the classes, the main character is a bard and there's a druid and there's somebody who I think is probably a paladin or a cleric. Like those things are pretty obvious in how they're presented. And I think that's if it's obvious to me what these classes are without saying the word bard or barbarian or druid, then that is an effective communication of what those things are. And I think that that is a success for how the movie was made.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, like the movie might suck as far as story goes, and
Well, no, but it kind of just looks like a romp, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know, I'm here for that. Like,
yeah. I think the less serious they try to make it, like if they make it more like just fun and enjoyable, and don't force like highbrow like politics or shit on it, and just keep it fun, then that would be a better received. Because I think that was the other sort of problem with the original Dungeons and Dragons movie was they tried to make it like really serious, and it's again when you have a treasure chest that can turn into a monster that wants to eat you, that's stupid.
all levity flies out the window.
That is a stupid concept outside of the world of Dungeons and Dragons. So there should be an element of stupidity and idiocy and absurdity into the movie, and I think that that's a better approach for it. Those are my 2 cents. Five,
I think that
5 cents.
applies to like
Probably
life
about
in
$2.
All
general.
100 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's Fata Morgana.
It's not. It's not. That I'm sure of.
Maybe Fata Morgana is like one of those fancy viral spices that they sell at Trader Joe's.
Wait. What do you mean maybe?
Ooh.
Like you know what it is though. You can't maybe us with this.
I'm just trying to prod you along because I was thinking about seasonings.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah.
did mention seasonings earlier, Gary, and I do think that pouring some Fata Morgana on my on my stir fry sounds pretty good.
Mm. It does actually. That and some rice, like I'm set.
You know what
Yeah.
this needs? This just needs a little bit of Fata Morgana. Just sprinkle it on.
Sprinkling.
What what if it's you think it's Latin, right? Chris?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not gonna die on that hill, but yeah, I think it's probably
Latinish.
yeah,
It
Latinish.
tends that way. What is Morgana then?
That's the
Like
part that I don't know. That's the part that's bothering me because like I don't know like like when I connect it to stories of Morrigan, it feels like it's related to Morgana, but I don't know that those things are true. So I'm like making connections in my head that might be just like my brain making those connections because they sound similar, but they might or like Morgana or Morrigan might be derived from Morgana, but Morgana has a different root or comes from someplace
yeah.
else. Um, so yeah, that's and I don't
I
know
don't know
what
what
that
that
would I don't know what that would mean either. Um, if I'm assuming that Morgan is a name that is derived from Morgana, I don't know what that means about the word Morgana that Morgan would be derived from it.
let me apply a contemporary lens to this. So there's a terrible law firm in Florida, Morgan and Morgan. And so they are they're like the ambulance chasers, but they do it statewide and they're awful. I have to assume that that's related somehow.
Of
There's no
course.
reason it wouldn't be.
Right, of course.
Yeah. And so that leads me to believe that there's like a I don't know, what would you call that? Like a
I have a theory.
okay. I'm glad.
I
I was gonna say parasite or leech, so I think whatever you have is gonna be better than that.
Yeah, no, it's better than that. It builds off of that, I think. I was thinking about your ambulance chaser idea, and like that Morgana could mean like almost like what's the like the phrase final destination, like the idea of like your ultimate fate, your ultimate end, Fata Morgana. Which would
Yeah.
also tangentially relate to some of Allison's recent studies. So it's not even necessarily like that far removed
It doesn't
from
seem like a reach
where
at all.
Allison's
Yeah.
headspace would be.
Yeah. 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 That totally tracks. That totally tracks. Do you just want to ask what it is?
Slow blink.
I got nothing unless you're ready for the answer.
I mean, I think I am.
You're like, I just can't. I'm in a place where I can't not know.
I don't even know if it's that. I'm just out of practice at BSing, I guess. Or there's just not enough to latch onto this. Yeah, that's true. I'm not. There's not enough that I can latch onto to. All I've got is ambulance chasers, and that seems pretty insufficient for.
Um, yeah. To change topics yet again, I'm volunteering at hospice, and it's been interesting, but it's also been kind of difficult because it's like that introvert thing.
Mm,
Where part of my job, other than like kind of like random kind of housekeeping things, is to obviously visit with clients, and which I totally enjoy doing. But the hardest part for me is basically to like walk in the door and make it happen,
Mm,
because they're most of them aren't leaving their rooms. And so I have to be like kind of the extrovert conversation starter visitor, and like almost all of them welcome visitors because there's not much that's
right.
going on. But getting in the door for me is like the most difficult thing I've it's like my ultimate challenge this year, is because I'm just like, oh my god, I hate that moment of like, hi, like good morning, or like whatever the
Yeah.
yeah,
starter is, because I'm just like, oh, just if it was me, I would just be like, leave me alone.
Yeah, well,
Anyway,
it's like picking up the phone. Like there's an important call that you need to make, but like that means I have to talk to somebody on the phone. Like I'm fine if somebody calls me, but like making that connection out is always a challenge.
yeah, and especially because it's like, unlike other conversations where someone can exit politely,
Hmm.
stage left, these people are just literally,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
stuck. And so like there's no, it's hard to read body language and everything when none of that is like actually in motion. So I'm just like,
Hmm.
no, you actually have to just sit here and listen to me. And that seems like a nightmare. I don't know. Anyway, that's my share for this. But now we're down to like 9 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Fata Morgana is Italian,
Okay.
Thank goodness.
and
Thank goodness.
Fata
That's so
Morgana.
good.
and it's a complex
It's still
form
Latin
of
derived.
mirage, that's in usually in a narrow band above the horizon. So like the, I
Oh,
guess, um
yeah.
what was it? Is it the Flying Dutchman? What's the one that this there's like a ship that people often reference, and they think that that's
Mm.
um and the origin is sort of an Italian translation of Morgan the Fairy, or Morgan Le Fay of Arthurian legend. So you're not off base there
Golly.
at all. And it's basically just like they're described as like fairy castles or false land that's conjured by her magic, essentially, is kind of the through line, I think. And there's a bunch of science behind it about these optimal conditions that rays of light bend when there's a thermal inversion and blah
Hmm.
blah blah. But yeah. Anyway,
That's the thing when you're driving and like it's really hot out and like like on a straight roadway, you can see in the distance like it's the mirage over the road.
yeah, yeah, sort of. Only most of the time, this takes place over water specifically.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So, going to translate.google.com, fata actually means fairy
Mhm.
Hmm.
in Italian. So, and if I put Fata Morgana, it just says Mirage. And Morgana does not
Thanks,
have a
Google.
direct translation. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
So thinking about like the
just the
olden
name.
days of boat travel, like can
Hmm.
you imagine like if you're like on a boat and like it's the first time you've seen this off in the distance, you're like, oh, what are we going into? Crap, you know? Like it probably like, I don't know, drop the sails or I guess if you had like an engine, like, throttle down or something. And it's just you never get
Just
closer
turn
to it.
around.
What the heck? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a reason why there's all sorts of stories from all seafaring cultures about like, sea monsters and like,
Hmm.
beyond this Dragonsby and such, like, the parts of the map that are unfinished, and like monsters are drawn in because they don't know and they really don't want to find out what's out there.
I don't know if it's they don't want to find out, but it's like
For
it's
a
like you remember
while it
like
was, though. I think for a while it was like there's shit out there and we don't know. It's big and
no,
scary. Yeah.
no, they
That
just
was
hadn't
that was
found
why
out
the
yet.
dragons were drawn in. It
To-
was to warn people
I know,
off.
but listen, let me finish. Toxic masculinity was a thing there. So if Steve went out this far, Jeff went a little further, and eventually someone far enough out, and they well, the dragon's not here. Put it further out on the map, you know.
Well,
But it was a
yeah. I mean
one-upmanship thing that eventually got it solved. I don't believe it had
that's
anything with like trying to find spices or new land or any crap like that. It was like I can take my boat out further than you can. Nah,
well,
Hey,
yeah, for
you know
sure.
what?
But
It does tie into spices.
it does, though. Yeah, because
everything does. It's all
that's why
capitalist in nature, and it's
that's why Christopher Columbus
disaster.
was sailing across the ocean, was because he wanted to get to India, and he wanted to get to India in a faster way. Because he
It's all
thought,
And
about that seasoning. That
yeah, because he figured, like, okay, if this is the known world,
he was
then
making a stir fry and said, "You know what this needs?
if this is the
Fata
known
Morgana."
world, and what was known of the known world for him would have been basically like
Yeah.
Eurasia, then, and I don't believe that there is an edge to the world, so I should be able to go this way and end up
Hmm.
over here,
Yeah.
like, and yeah, it's the idea of like, well, yeah, I can sail my boat farther than you can. Um,
Um, somewhat related to the edge of the world. I don't know if you remember, maybe not. It was a big deal to me. It's a big deal, I think, going forward. Oh, I can't remember
you're
his name
tell
right
us you're
now.
a flat earther.
God no. Um, there's a project that a Japanese businessman is doing called Dear Moon, and he's taking one of the first starships from SpaceX and flying around the moon, and like had a call for people to apply, and was like, going to send 10 people up with him, right? One, and they announced the selection. Sadly, I was not selected, but
I thought
one of
this
the
was
people.
going to be like a huge crescendo, being like, and that's why the podcast is over. Like,
Wouldn't that be amazing if I was going to the space? It's not as good as me going to space, but there's a content producer, um, everyday astronaut. Um, why am I dropping his name right now? Tim, doesn't matter. Um,
doesn't matter. Yeah.
everyday astronaut does like amazing content, and just kind of started from like he did this. He was a photographer into this like quirky photo series, and he bought a spacesuit and then got stuck in it, and like almost suffocated because he couldn't figure the helmet off. Um, but then he got off and he survived. Otherwise, it'd be a really boring and weird story. But he started doing some space content and really got into it. And so he is going around the moon in 2024, 2025. Um, maybe it's next year. I don't know. I don't know when it is. But Tim Dodd, I'm so excited for him. Like I'm more excited for him than I would be for anyone else, just because it's been fascinating to see this guy that was like, I did this 8 shot like photo shoot in this spacesuit because I thought it would be funny, and it's turned into this like thing, and really like reinvigorated my interest in a lot of things about space, and so I'm really stoked for him.
That's
It
awesome.
was like a joyous thing to read on the internet, which I
and
continue
and
to
that
ask you and everyone who will answer: is the internet a net good or a net bad in the world?
net neutral.
It's
Neutral
Uh,
not. There's no
the
such thing.
the selection was random. It was like
No,
lottery, or it was like
no,
you had to
no.
petition,
Yeah, it
sort
was
of.
like an application
Yeah.
process. I think I'm gonna butcher the name. The DJ Steve Aoki is going.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's like the idea was like let's take artists up there who can inspire the public about space. Is like the
They
whole
getting paid
idea.
for this?
I mean, they're flying. No, I don't think. I think they're just going to space. I think if someone was like, you can
Space
catch a
is
flight to the
payment
moon.
enough.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, that
guess
would.
so. Who knew? I just
I
thought like if they were artists, maybe we could throw them a bone, but like
I think the
I don't
the
know that
hope
Steve
is that
Aoki needs a lot
it
many
will
bones.
what, and I don't know who the other people are. I should probably read the rest of them. I think the intent, a lot of the content's in Japanese, which is problematic for me. I think the intent is when they get back that this will, inspire them to communicate as artists with the public,
Mhm.
and get us all looking upward. Although I can't look upward right now. It's been cloudy for the last week and it's killing me.
Mm.
I
Uh,
So Aaron watched this on the flight to Hawaii, but we watched it together as a family. Finally watched Hidden Figures
Mm.
this week.
oh, yeah.
Um, and I thought of you, Gary, and I thought about like it was interesting, like to see how NASA, both by necessity but also by choice, kind of bucked sort of current cultural standards, and said, "Well, like, fuck that shit. We're scientists and we need people to do the work." Um, and and
Isn't it funny how things like code and like facts don't actually care like what gender or color you are? It's
Crazy
bizarre.
town.
I know.
That's
I know.
crazy talk.
I know. I know. Um, I'm fascinated by uh NASA is this really weird intersection of like hierarchical military people combined with
Hmm.
like dreamers and people that are looking at the sky. And
Right.
somehow this mix actually gets stuff done. Um, there's certainly, of course, like friction in there, but there's this uh, energy and undercurrent like about this abstract idea of mission that just keeps things moving forward. That um, honestly uh, honestly has moved me in many ways uh recently, and I'm just doing like work on old website shit, so it's pretty. I mean, like literally, like I'm working on today. I was working on the Apollo lunar uh surface journal, like like I mean it's
That sounds
it
fucking awesome, though.
it
I was like, let's all go around in a circle and see what else everybody's working on because it's not as cool.
I mean
Sorry.
it's just old markup, like it's just old markup.
Thank you for listening to Binary Jazz. If you like this episode, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. You can visit us online at binaryjazz.us or follow us on Twitter at binaryjazz. Special thanks to Serpiente Negra Ensemble for the use of their tracks for our intro and outro music. You can find them online at serpientenegra.bandcamp.com. Don't forget that you can ask us a question through the forum on the website or on Twitter, and we'll read it aloud on the next episode of Binary Jazz.